Welcome to the Filmfest studio. My name is Ilona. I'm the artistic director of Filmfest Bremen, and I have with me today Bruno Brenner from the film Go, which will be screened in the Kunsthalle, the art museum of Bremen. Hi, Bruno.
Hello, Ilona.
Nice that you can come here to the studio today to talk a little bit more about your work, which is a film, but it's a film you haven't shot, but compiled. Maybe you can tell us a little about the footage to begin with.
Yeah, firstly, I want to thank you also for the opportunity to show the film during Filmfest Bremen. And yeah, about the footage, it was a long process of research, and I think it tells a bit also about my situation living in Germany. So yeah, I come from Brazil, and I'm very big fan of football, and I wanted to make a film of this specific football team, and that's why I think it tells a bit about my situation. Like, I was distant from my country, so I couldn't shoot anything, and I decided then to in order to make this film possible, like to have a film, I should then work with I had, which is like footage from the internet, which is available on YouTube especially.
Maybe you can tell us a little what makes this particular team so special.
Football.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it involves many things that many people don't really see in football. So, because yeah, I understand that there is a general view on football as a sport, as like a leisure activity, but there are way more matters involved also in football, and in the case of my film, there is politics involved, especially, and also in connection with a feeling of like brotherhood and a sense of a feeling of identification to the other, you know. And that's what I wanted to bring in my film, like not only football as a game, as a sport, but something that goes beyond the stadium. Yeah.
But I also had the feeling that this might be a special team. I don't know. Like, for instance, in Germany, I was thinking of something like St. Pauli, something which is to people means more than the actual sport, because there's a message maybe behind that team.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah. It's nice that you mentioned St. Pauli, because I think that both Corinthians and St. Pauli, they share. Yeah, like I think it's in Brazil, Corinthians is known as the club of the people. So like it has more than 30 million fans, and from all the social status. So I think it's special in this sense, and it's also like when like the film depicts a certain period of time in this team history, which was a period of 23 years without winning a title, and one might think of this team doesn't win anything, so like maybe the supporters don't want to support this team, but in Corinthians' case, it's like the opposite. Like even though the team spent like all these years without winning a title, the fan base always growing. So they were the more they didn't win, the more they would grow, and I think this show like a passion that is like embodied in football, and especially in those teams, like those people's teams. I think winning is not the most important thing, but like this love and care for the team. Yeah.
Maybe it's also because a lot of good people like the underdogs, right? So if you have a team that wins everything, it's attractive to a certain kind of person maybe, but the underdogs are the ones that the people usually like or root more for. So maybe the success of them has to do with not winning anything for 23 years.
Yeah.
Have they won anything since you made the film?
Yeah. Actually, it's a successful team. Like it has had this period without titles, and from the 50s to the 70s. But then afterwards, they were like pretty successful, and still today they are pretty successful. Not winning every year, but once in while they are winning, like every 2 years or something, they win something.
But football is something that is very relevant to your work anyway. So usually art and football are seen as being in two very separate spheres, I think, for most people. So is there anything that connects football and art in your mind?
Well, I think I can, now it comes to my mind like one text by Pasolini. He was also a very big fan of football, and he wrote a text about correlating football and literature. And I think this was really interesting how you can create this kind of relationships between football and art, and like in his case was the literature, like creating kind of saying that exists two types of football, so like the football poetry and the football prose, and yeah, and I think in relation to cinema, which is my case, like I have also other projects alongside that poses football into cinema, or cinema into football. I think TV is really a nice was kind of a entrance door to football, that like to create this audiovisual history of football and how this is implemented into many films. Like, because I can remember of many films that were made, like mine, were made of footage, so like existing footage, and this footage usually comes from TV, you know, from what TV was shooting of football. And yeah, this is something I can relate. Like I think much of the football in art comes from the TV, from the memory of TV.
And I also think one thing that football and movies especially maybe have in common is that they evoke really strong emotions. When watching your footage film, it's like the emotion just jumps out at you from the screen. And even if you're not a fan of football or not a fan of that particular team or don't know anything about it, you can still feel this intense passion. And I think cinema aims to evoke similar emotions in people.
Yeah.
So perhaps football is the perfect subject for films, actually.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think also sound-wise, I think it's very powerful, like the atmosphere of a stadium, for instance, and this is something I've tried to work within my film, like this, the powerful sonic atmosphere. And I think in film is the same, in cinema it's the same. Like of course there are films much focused on the image, but like there's always sound, even if it's a silent film. Or and I think also this it comes a lot through sound, like in football and in film, like, and both together. Like it's always like the symbiosis, image and sound. And also in football, it's not only football is not only seen, but I think it's perhaps mainly heard. Like you can take radio, for instance, like the radio transmissions in the 70s, and how this plays a role, like in for the game. No, yeah.
Would that be something that interests you in the future, to maybe record audio as well in those settings and use it for other works?
Yeah. Actually, I had in my master project in HFK, I've done a work relating the sonic aspects of football in relation to the pandemics. Mm-hmm. So I did some recordings in close to the Weser Stadium, and yeah, like and then at the final product I played like in some pocket radios. So these radios that usually, I don't know how it's in Germany, but in Brazil this is very, very common, like that people, they go to the stadium, they are watching the game, but they have still a radio on their ears, like listening to the narration, to the commentary.
That's funny. I haven't seen that here yet, but that's quite smart, maybe.
Yeah. And yeah, because it's like this, I think the sound really plays a role. Like even though the person is watching the game, they want to hear like this emotion of the voice, like narrating, or and so I did this project, but actually for me the sound of football is super interesting, and I think there is a lot of room to make more about it. Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to see or hear and experience your next projects, and I'm really glad to have you with Go at Kunsthalle this year at Filmfest Bremen. I would invite everyone watching this to go to the museum, watch the exhibition, and especially listen closely and look closely, learn something, and dive into the world of football with you in your film. So thank you, Bruno, for being in the studio today, and I'll see you at the Art Museum.
Thank you very much, Ilona, and thank you all the team of Filmfest. I hope you enjoy the film and enjoy the festival as well, and watch many films as possible.
Thank you, absolutely.
Thank you.